Good morning, class, and welcome to our presentation about ICE and Hispanic communities, understanding discrimination and protest. At first, we will show you a few clips and then continue with the structure of our presentation.
Police! Move! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up!
This is the moment federal agents held a 19-year-old man to the ground outside a Chicago convenience store.
Touching the car, leave me alone! Look what they're doing!
Now to the structure. First, we will present the key question. Secondly, we will answer what ICE is, then show the demographic overview, and then do a comparison about Asian and Hispanic communities. For point 5, we will tell you about the history of discrimination against Hispanics, and then tell you what the current situation is like and what kind of resistances there are. Then the political dimension, and lastly, we will answer our key question. And on the last slide are our resources. The key question is, how does ICE impact Hispanic communities in the United States?
ICE stands for Immigration Custom Enforcement. It was created in 2003 after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. The US government decided to reorganize its security system and create the Department of Homeland Security. ICE became part of this new system. Its official goal is to protect national security by enforcing immigration laws. ICE has two main branches. The first one is HSI, Homeland Security Investigations. They investigate crimes like human trafficking and drug smuggling. But the part most people know is ERO, Enforcement and Removal Operations. This branch is responsible for arresting, detaining, and deporting undocumented immigrants.
The chart illustrates the population of the US in 2018. The population was mainly white, non-Hispanic, making up 60.5% of the total. Hispanic individuals formed 18.3%, while Black individuals represented 12.5%. Asian individuals made up 5.7%, and the remaining share consisted of multiracial and other groups. Together, these figures highlight the country's growing racial and ethnic diversity already evident in 2018.
Comparison: Asian communities versus Hispanic communities. When we look at Asian and Hispanic communities in the discussion about immigration, we can see that people often think very differently about them. Asian Americans are usually seen as the model minority, which means that many people assume they are always successful in work and other parts in life. This stereotype makes it seem like everything is fine in these communities, but it can hide real problems like poverty, discrimination, or mental health issues. On the other hand, Hispanic communities face very different stereotypes. Many people wrongfully assume that Hispanic people are in the United States illegally, even though most of them are US citizens or legal residents. Because of these ideas, ICE enforcement often focuses on much more on Hispanic communities than on Asian Americans. Even though both groups include immigrants, and these common beliefs about who is successful and who is illegal influence how society sees these groups and how laws are applied.
Point 5. Historical discrimination against Hispanics. Discrimination against Hispanic communities in the United States has developed over many decades, long before ICE existed. After the Mexican-American War in 1848, the US gained large territories that had been part of Mexico. Mexicans living there suddenly became a minority under the new US rule. Many lost their land through unfair legal processes, faced segregation in schools and housing, and were treated as second-class citizens. This period laid the foundation for long-term racial stereotypes and unequal treatment. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, economic fears fueled anti-Mexican actions. The US government and local authorities organized large-scale forced returns of Mexicans, pushing more than 1 million people to leave, including many who were US citizens. These actions strengthened the idea that Hispanic communities were removable and not fully American. The Brothero program brought Mexican workers to the US to fill labor needs, especially in farm work. Although it offered employment, the program often created conditions of exploitation, low pay, poor living conditions, and a few legal protections. The US deepened on these workers while still treating them as replaceable and undeserving of rights. In the 1990s, political language around immigration changed strongly. Terms like illegal immigrant, border crisis, and criminal alien became common in media and political speeches. This way of speaking portrayed Hispanic migrants as a danger, making it easier for government to pass tougher laws and increasing policing. In 2003, after 9/11, the US created ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Its creation made strict immigration enforcement a much more permanent and powerful part of the government. ICE used practices such as raids, detention centers, and deportations that affected Hispanic and Latino communities much more than others. ICE carried forward not only government power, but also decades of negative attitudes towards Hispanic people built into earlier US policies.
ICE are now more active and more talked about than ever, especially in Hispanic communities. They continue to carry out raids in neighborhoods and workplaces, and they arrest and detain people they believe are undocumented. Many of the deportations they perform are sent to Latin American countries, which is why Hispanic communities are affected the most. They also make collateral arrests, meaning they sometimes detain people who are not even the original target. In addition, many immigrants must attend regular check-ins or are placed under monitoring programs, even if they have no criminal record. A large part of their work happens at the US-Mexico border, where enforcement is the strongest. Overall, their actions today create a lot of pressure, fear, and uncertainty for many Hispanic families and communities.
Hispanic protests and activism. Hispanic communities and their supporters are very active in opposing strict immigration policies and ICE enforcement. They show their disagreement in two main ways: by holding street protests and by using social media. Protests usually happen in front of ICE facilities or detention centers to publicly show that they do not agree with deportation and harsh policies. Social media, especially hashtags like #AbolishICE, is also very important. Activists use it to organize quickly, share updates, and reach people across the country. They want to make sure that politicians and the public understand the impact of ICE on families and communities. But by combining protests and online campaigns, they are able to make their voices heard and demand change. Political dimension. The political debate about immigration are closely connected to people's worries about change in the population. Some white Americans are concerned that they might lose their majority as Hispanic and Asian population grow, and politicians sometimes use these fears to gain support. This is why ICE and its enforcement policies cause so much controversy. For many people, ICE is not just about the law. It is seen as a symbol of defending cultural ideas about who belongs in America. Immigration enforcement becomes more than just a legal issue. It turns into a political and social debate about identity and the future of the country.
The connection between ICE and Hispanic communities is shaped by many different factors: history, stereotypes, fear, and politics. Hispanics are often seen as the face of illegal immigration, even though this is not true. And these stereotypes lead to more raids, arrests, and deportations in their communities. At the same time, Hispanic activists and protests show that they are not silent. They work to raise awareness, fight discrimination, and demand fair treatment. So this issue is not only about immigration laws, it is also about identity, equality, and how different communities are seen in the United States.